Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be discussing Phantasm Ravager, the fifth film in the hit cult series. I'm the editor-in-chief over at bloodygoodhorror.com. Joining me tonight, first up, doing his web Bieber thing for Halloween, he's the web developer at Bloody Good Horror, and his name is Mark.
Yeah, I actually did some of that this week. It's rare that you say that about me and I have things to report on.
Next up on the show, published author of horror fiction and co-host of the Instamatic, coming to you from the Midwest, y'all. His name is Casey.
Boy!
Casey, what's going on with those Midwestern voters? What the hell, buddy?
I know. It's embarrassing. I'm sorry.
And last up on the show, coming to you from the land of the elites, Manhattan, New York City. He's the business manager at bloodygoodhorror.com, and his name is Schnars.
I'm going to be making Trump hand signs for the whole episode today for anyone watching on the live stream.
Schnars can't believe that plebeians like us are even allowed to vote. Like,
John, can you sniff and adjust your mic more? Can you do that?
Oh boy, I like to.
It's gonna be huge.
I like the idea.
Huge.
In my head, the Schnars character is evolving into like a Peter Thiel-esque type guy, like a
God.
technocrat who thinks that like tech billionaires are going to solve all the world's problems, and like he's getting injections of young people's blood to keep himself young and stuff.
It's like you don't even want to get me. I went on a little bit of a Peter Thiel rant at the office today. Let's stay away from it.
I think that it's starting to evolve in my head, John. We're starting to go into a new phase of the Schnars character. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah,
And something new to workshop, you know?
that's cool. Let's work it out.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Let's just see what feels good.
Quick,
You are
see
wearing
you
white, which
to
means
Eric,
you're
I mean.
approaching your final form.
quick, someone find out where Peter Thiel went to college. Anyway,
I don't know if he's like one of those dudes who like might not have graduated from college kind of thing. You know?
Throwing shade.
fellas, it is
No, I'm just saying.
it is Halloween time, and you know what that means. Halloween boners. I think we all have boners. for
Razor
Halloween.
blades and candy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it smells like pumpkin spice.
That was not the thing that I was when came to my mind at all.
We've been luxuriating today in awkward old Halloween costume photos from our youths. That's been
God
fun.
damn.
Yeah.
I love it.
My-
I was like, when I was posting that picture today, I was fucking around with Instagram filters. I was like, wait a second. Filters are supposed to replicate what's actually just happening in this whole picture.
You know, Mark sent me this picture today. I think he's just sending me like innocuous Halloween pictures. And he actually sends me this picture of me dressed up as a hobo clown as a kid. And like this might not surprise longtime listeners, but I was like a little bit of a melancholy child, let's say. And I would say that my face in this picture captures like all of the world's sadness in one little
All
child's.
around me are familiar faces.
Oh, I should make a YouTube video of just that song and like a 2-minute zoom into my face.
Oh man,
That'd be awesome.
we could laugh now, right? Because you're a reasonably well-adjusted adult. But just looking,
Sure.
I've laughed so many times looking at that picture
No,
today.
you're an adjusted adult.
Yeah,
When
I prefer
maybe not
just
well.
simply adjust.
When I was in second grade, my teacher called my mom and said she was worried I was going to give myself an ulcer because I was worried about the Palestinian crisis. And I think you can
I
really,
am not at all surprised.
I think you can really see that on my face in this picture. Just
Oh
I mean,
my
it says
God.
something about you too that you shared it, because the picture that I shared had a really awesome picture of, or like you were in the picture as a young Jason Voorhees. You couldn't have been any older than like 7.
yeah, that one was fun too. But this one was
were
like
rocking
staring.
that.
This one was like staring into my soul. So
Yeah.
Little real, yeah.
fucking.
I was pretty. I
gotta
don't know,
say,
like
too,
I.
you
You know,
grow up.
I was
You're growing
2
up
or
and
3.
you're growing up and you
What's
don't
that?
have a lot of money, and like hobo clown is the perfect costume because it's like, hey, let's go to Goodwill and just buy a bunch of old crap, especially
It's
at that,
haunting and accurate.
especially at that time because you could find a lot of awful 70s leisure wear, which is
Yeah.
basically what I'm wearing in this picture.
And it's relevant to bring it back now.
Yeah.
With all the evil clowns out there.
Oh God, you got to watch out. You get straight arrested, I think.
Yeah.
hobo clown these days.
For all we know, you're the like ringleader.
It's
Yeah.
hard out there for a clown. I think that's what they say.
I mean
Oh,
that look on your
for the
face, I
clown.
could see you haunting an apartment complex in North Carolina.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Pantsuits.
Pantsuits.
No, I'm just kidding. What you've been doing some web developing at Bloody Good Horror. Would you like to share that with us?
Oh, brother, I sure have. So I've kind of had this idea batting around in my head for a while and had limited time to figure it out. But we are going to be doing an experiment and featuring watch lists, what we're calling watch lists on the website, which are basically they're a little bit different than the lists you typically see on the website, where it kind of in this instance it gives you the list of all these movies. So for example, for now we're doing everyone on the staff is offering up their must-watch Halloween picks. So as of recording time, it's been me and it's been Cece. And basically, it's just a post that kind of offers up our recommendations with a little pull quote on why each thing is being recommended. So every day from now until Halloween, we're going to be posting a new one. We're going through all of our writers, and it's pretty cool. It's really interesting to me to see what people's go-to Halloween picks are, and we're going to be extending it beyond Halloween. It's not going to be every day beyond Halloween, but as we kind of come up with different things, like I imagine we'll do them for all the holidays, right? So you'll expect to see one around Christmas time and probably, more throughout the year. And it really just gives you, one of the things I want to put more of on the website is more insight just into everyone's personal tastes, because a lot of people's understanding, people know us pretty well, right? Because they've been listening to us babble for 10 years. So they know us pretty well, but they might not know our writers as well. Especially people that aren't on the show that often. So I think it's a pretty cool way to kind of get to know writers through their tastes, be them amazing or terrible. And also kind of interesting to see, like, one of the movies on my list, just spoiler alert, was Halloween 6. And I imagine maybe it's on Eric's list, but I imagine it's also not on other people's
So-
list.
Not on my list.
So Mark's been asking me to write a list, which I think I will do. Spoiler alert! I'll give you a
Oh,
little.
really?
I'll give
That's
you.
cool.
I'll give you a teaser. I would, just to mix it up, I would probably sub Halloween 6 for Halloween 4. That's
Well,
all.
you can. You know what's great about the internet and about the way we did this? You can do both if you want.
That's true.
I
That's true.
included Halloween 6 and Halloween 2 in my list.
I just always Halloween 4 is always my go-to. That's, to me, like, some days it's my favorite one.
Also, spoiler alert to look forward to. A surprising number of people included Nightmare Before Christmas on their list.
I did not include that one either.
I would call that
Which
a
is an
Christmas
interesting
movie.
pick.
Yeah,
I didn't
Sure.
include it either.
It's like, I love Gremlins, but I wouldn't watch it at Halloween. I'd watch it at Christmas.
That's
I
true. But I'm
guess
saying
so.
that's why you have to tune in and go to bloodygoodhorror.com and look at people's lists and share them.
Eric, for people who like to get in the holiday spirit during the spooky season, what better way?
It's true.
It's the equivalent of like a Hobby Lobby putting out their Christmas decorations before Halloween even happens,
You know what one I want to revisit this Christmas that I haven't watched in years is Black Christmas. That used to be my yearly go-to.
The remake with the ear on the tree.
No, not the remake.
I think it's a good year to revisit Santa's sleigh because Goldberg is back in the WWE.
That's a good
Oh,
point.
Yeah. He
That's a-
really is, and
It's always a good time to
Weird.
revisit our episode on Santa's sleigh where Schnars almost quit the show.
Yes.
it was like episode 7, I think, or 9.
You know what's funny? To this day, I've still never seen the movie, and I'm sure I would love it.
I
Oh,
think you would.
yeah. I mean, at
Oh,
least
God.
the first 10 minutes are gold.
It's
It is
so
really
good.
funny just to think back on the period where, like, we had a show every week and we had a movie every week, but not everyone necessarily saw the movie.
I know.
Oh, and sometimes we did two movies because we didn't have kids, or Casey did. The rest of us did not.
Fuckers.
Yeah, that was the episode that sort of like set the tone for my expectations for where you would all be coming in on certain movies, and you've continued to live up to it for the next 390 plus episodes. So
Yeah, but to bring it back to these picks, I just think the watch lists are going to be pretty cool, a pretty cool feature on the website, because one of the things that I want to try to cultivate is this atmosphere of like a video store where you're getting these curated recommendations from people, because you don't necessarily get that anymore. So that's going to be every day from now until Halloween, and then just keep going to bloodygoodhorror.com and keep an eye out for that. There'll probably be a spot in the menu once we get enough. But if you go to the website right now, typically we'll be featuring one of those every day, and then there's a little promo right underneath it where you can you'll see it and you can click there and get into the list of all of them, so you can go back through all of them.
Love it.
Yeah,
It's some fancy beavering, so congrats.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
You know what's cool,
Yeah.
Mark?
what's up?
Horror movies. They're pretty cool.
Yeah,
They're cool.
I've heard a rumor.
What else we got going on? Jay Schnaps.
Well,
what's the schedule look like coming up? Then we'll come back to Mark
the
for whatever it was.
The
he was gonna
Shedge.
say.
You know, we've talked about it a bunch. I'm going to put this up there for one of the worst Halloween seasons, mainly in terms of volume.
Excuse me.
Let's wait until we see Medea Halloween, John.
All right. So
Yeah.
basically, well, but my point being, this weekend we have Ouija 2 and Boo, a Medea Halloween, both releasing, and then nothing the actual weekend before Halloween.
Yeah.
But have you ever thought that maybe the other movies pulled back from that release date because of Medea's Halloween?
No, I mean that is like
It's
theoretically possible. That is,
possible,
it's yeah. So we're gonna do those back to back. I don't know. I think we're decided on doing Ouija
we're-
2.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't-
I've heard whisperings, and I don't want to set set expectations, but I've heard that it's not terrible, that it actually might be better than
It wouldn't
Yeah.
take it wouldn't take a lot to be better, but yeah.
the first one wasn't horrible. It just wasn't very good.
I legit
It was
think I
pretty
saw
bad.
it, but cannot remember or distinguish it from like 15 other movies.
was-
You know what's weird?
Yeah.
I have like distinct I thought the beginning part where like the girl hangs herself with the Christmas lights or with I feel like that was pretty memorable. And I remember someone drowning in a pool cover, and for some reason, those are the memories that stick
I-
out.
I did not see this movie.
That's one of those movies that it's one of those movies that I forget that I saw, and then when you're walking around like looking at movies and stuff, it's like, oh, that looks cool, and then you realize, oh shit, I did watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually nothing coming out week of October 28th, the 28th, the weekend before Halloween. The only film that's releasing is Inferno, which is like the new fucking Dan Brown, I don't know, garbage.
Tom Hanks solves Catholic mysteries.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
that trailer because it's hilarious. So I've never seen any of those movies, but I know enough about them to know that it's a lot of like him solving puzzles really easily out loud, and it's really funny because the name the Da Vinci Code or whatever isn't in the title, but it's clear they want you to know it's one of those movies. So literally,
Yeah, it's the same characters.
literally in the trailer, they show you the entire solving of one of the puzzles, like from beginning to end of the thread. Like literally him going, I got it, the number 33, and then they like go and touch stuff, and like it's really funny. It's really
To
dumb.
be fair, though, it's been like 7 to 8 years since the first movie came out. Hasn't
No,
it?
it's just really hilarious
Well,
how like
there was Angels and Demons too, which was like
Oh, I
this
forgot
is the
about that one.
third.
it's just really
Yeah.
funny how explicitly they spell it out for you in case you just don't get it.
So the first movie is not terrible. It's fairly watchable and competent and entertaining. The second one is rougher, and then this one looks just not good. But we'll see. So
Yeah,
you know, hold your breath if you are so inclined.
I will.
Cool.
Let me know
Yeah, I mean
when
after
it's
that
okay to breathe.
we've got episode 400, which we're going to be putting out a patron survey, and
I'm so excited.
yeah,
I'm so
really
excited.
too. So essentially,
Yeah.
each member of the podcast, the five of us,
Oh,
sort of
yes.
but BGH old school or whatever the hell we call ourselves, we each selected one cult sort of or classic. I even hesitate to call some of them classics. Film.
Got your filthy mouth, John.
Yeah, no
and-
kidding, man.
And patrons will be voting on which film, and we're gonna open this up to all patrons. It's it's a big episode, and that'll be sort of the centerpiece for episode 400. I think in a lot of ways it's similar to for episode 200 we did Return of the Living Dead, which we also ran a survey around. I don't even remember what the other films were in that survey. Do we want to tell people what the
Well, in
possible
that case,
selections are?
Return of the Living Dead was a choice that people had been asking us to do since the beginning of the show. I can almost guarantee that the movies on this list are movies that people have not asked us to do, but I cannot wait to do whatever the choice is.
But it's
there's
nice
some.
because some
There's
of these.
some.
It's nice though because some of these movies have callbacks to BGH history.
Sure, totally. I think go
Well,
ahead and give the list. It's so exciting. It might tip people over the edge to becoming patrons.
Yeah, if you would like to vote, you can become a patron at any level, and you will be able to participate. All right, so here we go.
System's rigged if anything other than my pick wins.
Are you going to tell them who picked what?
No, we won't tell you.
And
who picked what.
once again, Joe will take it personally.
Yes.
The selections are, and there's actually almost entirely sequels, which is interesting. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Wrong.
Ghoulies Go to College.
Nasty.
That's a nasty movie.
Let's not undersell that. Ghoulies Go to College is on the list.
Yeah, Ghoulies Go to College, which I did post trailers in the survey. So if you're curious, these are what is on YouTube as the trailers. I don't know if it's actually the official. Gremlins 2.
That's a lie.
The Gate, and Chud 2, Bud the Chud.
Well, they're almost like exclusively like weird creature movie sequels, which is kind of it's weird that we're also aligned in headspace.
Question:
Yes.
Are we giving out whose pick was whose, or is it anonymous?
No, I think we can reveal it on the episode.
Yeah, you have to watch. You have to tune in and vote, and tune in for 400 to find out.
Because I was about to say which one mine was, and then I was like, wait, maybe we're not supposed to.
Yeah.
I think we should wait for the grand reveal.
Fine.
Yeah. I'm excited. I've only seen 2 of the 5 movies, so.
But I will say, if you're a longtime listener, and if you can remember where those moments in BGH podcast history tied into some of these choices, be sure to slap the BGH classics on it and throw it out on Twitter.
For sure.
I would love to know that because I barely made any of those connections, so I'm sure someone else has got.
There's some
than I
that
do.
very direct connections, and some
Yes.
are. A little
I almost
tougher.
put Shriek of the Mutilated again just to see if people would vote for it.
No, there was a we would have exercised a full veto on that.
I don't even know how I heard of that movie. That's so like I just don't even know where that came from.
Exercise the demons. Was that a staff pick? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Shriek
It
of the
was
Mutilated,
Mark's
yeah,
staff pick.
for sure.
Yeah.
That was a real weird movie.
We're still like 5 of the only 15 people who have ever seen that movie, so
Seriously.
It's bad. It's
Bad.
real bad. All right.
it's something.
Wrong.
And Mark, was there something else you wanted to bring up also?
Oh, I just wanted to talk about what a lovely time we had in beautiful Massachusetts.
Oh
this
yeah,
past
Mark
weekend.
was at a business trip and he stopped by and spent the weekend. Got to spend some time with his adorable niece.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
bonus, we got to watch Phantasm Ravager together, which was a lot of fun.
Oh boy, we sure did. And honestly, we'll talk about it, but that was like a saving grace of this movie, the fact that we were able to watch it together. And you know, from a somewhat heartwarming perspective, it just brought me back to the days where we used to watch the Phantasm movies on VHS when we were in middle
Yeah.
school and high school. So
I agree.
it's kind of a
It makes me jealous. I'm not even joking around.
Yeah.
I would have liked to watch this with another human.
Yeah,
because
Totally.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
it's a
it's
lonely headspace.
necessary. But I loved, so obviously I live in Florida now, which it's still pretty warm, but the season seems to be changing at least before the sun comes up and after the sun goes down. It seems to feel like fall. But I will tell you where Eric lives in Massachusetts. That's like prime fall. That's
It's fall as fuck.
New Englandy. Felt like I was in an episode of Gilmore Girls a little bit.
You get off the plane, they're like, "Here's your horn o'plenty."
Must be nice because I drove to North Carolina this past weekend, and it's still green as hell.
Oh yeah.
It was
yeah, well,
disappointing.
it's been hot. It's been hot the last week. So
I did
we're
get
like-
to send John a lovely picture of his Duke sign, though.
that's true.
You know
Send
what?
me a picture from the car of the.
You know what though,
University
Schnars?
Instagram.
You know, you watch the movie alone, but it's kind of like, I don't know, you're role playing the movie, like much like Reggie, you're walking the path alone. You know, it's
Mhm.
like you really.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that part.
Yeah,
but
you
yeah,
really.
sure.
It's thematic. So that's cool. All
You
right.
could almost say that you're wearing a Reggie shirt. You're just missing the skullet.
All you're missing are some really badly made like blow up marks.
You're
Fire
missing
marks.
a couple scissor holes and a little splattering of yellowness on your shirt.
And some like black marker.
That was actually just from the craft services table.
Yeah, so we
Alright.
only have these left-handed scissors and a bunch of vanilla pudding. Is that gonna work? Okay.
All right, guys, it's time. Let's take a quick break so that we can discuss Phantasm Ravager.
Sometimes I wonder what it would be like for everything inside me that's denied and unknown to be revealed. But I'll never know. I live my life in hiding. My survival depends on it.
Hey, this is Ken Foray. Make sure that you tune in to Bloody Good Horror, the best horror you'll ever find in the United States or internationally, Germany, England, Italy. It's all happening right here in the United States. Bloody Good Horror. Ken Foray and out.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
Ken Furry and out, baby. Ken,
That was the most like resounding recommendation for this show you'll ever hear.
Ken Furry, a guy who in real life kind of talks like Reggie Bannister talks in these Phantasm movies.
Yeah,
Like Ken Furry's a guy I could picture saying like "far out, dude."
I'm pretty sure Ken Faree's a Hoosier too. Just saying.
Oh, hello.
Love it.
Wait, are you suggesting that Reggie Bannister is actually playing a character in this film and not just like
Not just
walking
Reggie
around
Bannister.
and like saying stuff?
You know, we can't review this movie without talking about the time that I drunkenly listened to his band at Horror Hunt Weekend for like 45 minutes
I think
And
I
then-
saw that with you.
and was
And then
way
proceeded
into
to
it.
tell everyone how incredible it was.
I
and
think
it
we
was
all saw that
not
together.
I'm
incredible.
not sure I said it was incredible. I think I probably said like that was okay.
You were drinking, my friend. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you would not stop telling me how amazing it was.
I am sad though because I couldn't.
You're
find
only
the picture.
retconning what you said because you just watched this movie and realized that maybe you can't actually play guitar.
I am sad because I couldn't find the picture from that same outing where I got a picture with Reggie with his arm around my shoulders where he said, "We're badass motherfuckers."
That's awesome. It's
I
also,
might be able to. I might be able to dig something.
it's
up.
also actually Mark. If you go to our old MySpace, that's where all those OG Horror Hound
Yeah.
weekend pictures are.
Yeah, just navigate over to our MySpace.
It's still out there. It's still there. But no, like the weirdest
Yeah.
thing about him is his band playing was like the lights were on. It was like in a hotel conference room, like with no mood lighting or anything. Just like
Yeah.
I'm hammered, just totally stark like hotel conference room lighting.
It's kind of like they didn't get invited. They just kind of showed up and started playing and behind the White Castle.
yeah, it was really weird. Hey John,
Fucking this podcast is so old.
Oh.
We have fucking MySpace.
John,
Yes, Eric.
how does Peter Thiel Schnars feel about the common people learning words?
I listen. I'm gonna take it not well if we keep this Peter Thiel thing going, but I would say we're for it. We're for it.
You're okay with the plebes learning words?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Gotcha. He went to Harvard. Anyway, that's
There you go.
basically the Ivy League. You're basically the same thing, right?
Did he graduate?
I
He
didn't.
probably.
I didn't get that far into his bio. His synopsis of his bio on Google. I didn't read that far. Okay. Schnars,
Yep. Yes, Eric.
please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, you know I don't do words without my stinger
That's right.
or whatever it's called. So today's word is gigantism. Gigantism, usually unusual or abnormal largeness. In medicine, it is defined as excessive growth due to hormonal imbalance. And gigantism comes to us obviously from the word giant, which actually comes from the Greek gigas.
Oh.
Gigas.
No, I think it comes from Andre the Giant.
Well, if you search gigantism and you go to the Wikipedia page, he is right there
Got it.
at the top. Yeah. So there is a prominent character in Phantasm as a series that one could describe as having gigantism. He is called the Tall Man.
Stand by. Mark actually found a picture of Reggie Bannister playing at Horror Hound Weekend.
Oh yeah.
I gotta
Oh,
save
wow.
it. I gotta save
From
this
our
here.
MySpace circa. This, I was still in college.
From our MySpace to your eyeballs.
I was still in college, so it was either 2007 or 2008.
There are a lot of lights on in that picture.
There are. See, I wasn't bullshitting.
It looks so different in my memory.
That's great. Life, man. Life's weird.
Sure is.
I love that. This podcast is so old. We have a MySpace. We have a well curated MySpace.
I think. Well, I wouldn't say well curated. It was just
Yeah.
let's dump a bunch of fucking weird pictures in
When
here,
we relaunched,
That's what we had in 2007.
when we relaunched,
we had to put everything up there.
when Mark and I relaunched the website originally in 2007 before anybody else came on, while I was waiting for the site to physically be online, we started a MySpace and I was just posting on that every day, like getting warmed up for the website.
It was good times.
Yeah.
There's like a solid 40% of the people listening who probably don't know what the hell you're talking about.
People know what
Ah.
MySpace is. Come on.
All right.
These damn kids never know what a top 8 was. When you pick your top 8. That's how you know
The
if it matters or
pain.
not.
The pain, the pain. So, do we want to talk about Phantasm? Ravager.
Yeah. Why don't you ravage me, Schnars?
Oh God, no! I'm the least qualified to try to synopsis
You know,
here.
I'll do it. So,
Okay, please.
Reggie Bannister, known as Reg in the Phantasm universe,
Playing himself. Quite
in the-
literally playing
in
himself.
the original film, I would describe him as a suave ice cream man. That's what he was. His friend in the
Wrong.
his friend in the original film, Jody, was a dude whose parents were dead, and he was trying to raise his little brother. I would say in the movie he's supposed to be like 20s maybe, but he's like 40 in the original movie. He's just, and he works on cars. He's got a leather jacket. He's a cool dude. And his little brother, Michael, I believe is his name, starts, his parents are dead. He's kind of wandering around town. He starts seeing weird stuff happening at this local cemetery.
You're just synopsizing the first.
No, but
round
I'm
of
bringing you
Phantasm
into the
films.
first one, so into this one. So essentially, Phantasm 1 happens. Reggie, Jody, Michael team up. They fight the tall man. I don't know if Jody dies at the end of that one, but he's not in the sequel. In the sequel, it's Reggie and a grown-up Michael, played by James LaGrosse, who's an actual real actor now. You can Google him.
Wait, I thought Michael's played by
No,
some
in
guy
this-
named A. Michael Baldwin.
No, in the second one, he's played by a totally different actor. In the third one, they brought back the original actor.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't know if he comes back for the third or the fourth one, but
I thought this was the fourth one, by the way, until
So-
at the very beginning of the show, someone said this was the fifth.
the second one's very much a continuation of the first one. The third one is just Reggie, and he teams up with this new like kind of badass biker chick lady, and I think that he's looking for Michael. It's been a long time since I've seen it. And then in the fourth one, Michael and Jody both come back, and it goes off into this weird like alternate parallel universe planes kind of territory. And there's actually like suggested time travel in the third one as well, where they go back to like the 1800s, and we see the tall man essentially as being like some kind of like scientist back in like the old West days or something. It's been a long time since I've seen him. What I remember about the fourth one is it's completely non-linear like this, makes absolutely zero sense, gives you no answers. And so here we are, like whatever, I don't know, when did the last one come out? Was this 15 years ago or something?
Oh shit! Hold on, I had it open.
So I'm not clicking on that picture yet because I'm trying to finish the synopsis. So, come on, that was old. We've seen that one.
It was 98, so it was 18 years ago.
Yeah, so almost 20 years ago, which is nuts. So in this film, we pick up, and Reggie is in the desert by himself, and he's been wandering by himself, and he then all of a sudden he's like in a nursing home, and like Michael's taking care of him and telling him that it was all just a delusion. And so that's sort of like one timeline. Then there's a timeline where Reggie's in the desert, kind of all beat up, and he realizes he's in the future at some point, and he runs into A. Michael Baldwin, who is now a like mercenary fighting the Tall Man, and it's basically the post-apocalypse. Like giant floating spaceship balls are like destroying Earth. Everything's on fire. There's a little
Spaceship balls.
There's a little person who really dislikes Reggie and calls him like Baldy the whole movie and weird shit like that. He's not very nice.
He's just a salty character.
Getting real edgy with those nicknames.
And
He calls him Old Man at one point.
yeah,
I know.
So essentially, there's no real plot here. It's very much a continuation of the fourth film in that you're just kind of following Reggie through multiple like planes of existence / time periods, all kind of fighting this never-ending eternal battle with the Tall Man. You know, we do kind of
Mental
find out
illness.
it is kind of suggested, and I don't know if this is new, but it's suggested that he basically was like good, but he was a scientist, and then he discovered this way to cross over planes, and when he came back, that's when he was like evil.
Wasn't it the third one where he was like in the 1800s and came up with the first device that let him cross dimensions?
I think that's the fourth one, but honestly, I don't know. The interesting thing about one of those was that they used some of that like alternate timeline stuff was actually shot for the original film. It was either the third or the fourth one. Used a bunch of like film that was shot in the original and never used, and then
nice.
then melded into this whole like time jumping thing. Anyway, man, it's real out there. It's really difficult to explain. I've seen all the movies and I still had no idea what was happening. So that kind of is what it is.
That
I
makes me
guess.
feel somewhat better
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I can start if you want, but like I had only seen the first film, which we watched for the show, and I encourage people to go back and listen. I think it's like somewhere in the 50s. I remember, and maybe you guys don't. The impression that I have from that movie is like how sort of like weirdly it seemed to be about like I don't want to say like pedophilia, but like the relationship between
Yeah, it was weird.
Reggie and Mike. Like Mike is like 15 and Reggie's like 40 and he's like hanging out. They're like chilling together. It's not appropriate. It was just super weird to me. And like
He's an ice cream man also, which makes it really.
You know what?
Exactly.
It's really
almost
funny.
Like
It's
on the nose.
It's really funny though, like how many of these old movies that we've done on the show from the 70s and 80s and found really weird relationships and things that we probably never blinked an eye at until we all like looked at it in a critical setting and went, that's not what?
Yeah, that's weird.
Can't be right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I like, because I had only ever seen it for the show, like I don't have the sort of nostalgic sort of love for these films in general. That said, like I get it. Like I feel like I very much understand why people are drawn to them. I mean, the first one has a lot of charm. It's not just like a little charm. I think and without having seen the sort of intervening films, which I cannot even imagine what they're about, given this one. It's what's interesting to me is like how strongly the tone is sort of pulled through, even though they're just like so wacky out there by this point in number 5. I think a lot of that might be because you do have a lot of the same cast. I mean, we should like, and there's a lot of things we could talk about this. The fact that the first movie is 79 is the official release date, and here we are. It's 37 years later. I mean, it's
imagine any other movie in that period. Imagine a modern day sequel to Halloween with the entire original cast, including like 140-year-old Donald Pleasance.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
rest in power, DP.
The only thing I can like somewhat think of to kind of compare it to would be the Indiana Jones films, which had to deal with some of the same stuff. I just mean like
I get it. It's just funny.
Well, I mean like there's 29 years I think between the first and the most recent one in that film. So just to like have covered so much ground, it's also crazy like how spaced out these were, even though they like theoretically are like in the same plot line. Like the characters like are literally 35 years older. There was no reason to do that. They could have made all these movies if they had the money. If they were bigger successes financially, you would think they would have done this storytelling more compact.
It's so far spaced out that Alzheimer's is actually a plot point.
But you know, if you go back, that's funny.
And frankly, like we didn't even mention, they didn't even make it to the end of Angus Scrimm's life. Like they had to finish shooting this essentially without him.
If you go back
Yeah.
to the original film, like there is non-linear, confusing time jumping logic from the very beginning. It's just that they don't address it as much until these later ones, but even then they're not explaining it per se. Like I think this film in particular, I think he's just kind of reveling in like, I'm not really going to tell you what's going on. It's just going to get weird.
Yeah, I mean, the first film is almost like hallucinogenic horror. Like it's very much from that, like, I mean, it's very late 70s, but it feels of the 70s in what they were doing and like the time period that it came out of. This doesn't have that same vibe to it. There's a lot of different stuff going on, but yeah.
Mark.
You have a really great way of catching me when I have my mic muted because I'm
Sorry.
doing on the show research. So this movie is objectively terrible. It's very rare. So
I'm glad you said it. I should have started there.
No, I mean it's so one of the things that I think is fascinating. I'm so glad we watched it actually, and we can talk about it because it does have a very interesting place in horror lore, especially like modern horror. Because I wouldn't be surprised if this was like a couple people at a bar at a convention, and they're like, well, all these people are at these conventions anyways, so let's spend $2,000 and make a movie out of it. So I would say, over email, like the plainness that I could state it is, I would not recommend this to a person who does not have intense nostalgia for the Phantasm movies. But for people that do, it's kind of perfect. If only like, it's so insane. It's like,
I mean, perfect is a little.
Yeah. No, I mean, the movie is not perfect. I'm saying like everything about this is so, if you consider the entire series, it's like so uniquely Phantasm, right? Like it's like they took these plot points that like didn't make a ton of sense in the first one, but it was like, that was the movie and it was the 70s or whatever. And they've just extrapolated them to this like almost like postmodern insanity where it's like you just can't even really, you can't watch it as a movie. You just watch it as a case study of like what happens after 35 years when an insane movie, someone tries to make sense of an insane movie. So I think there's parts in this that are really funny, namely like a lot of the unintentional or maybe intentional humor involved around like how bad of an actor Reggie Bannister is and his delivery of these just like fucking hilarious lines that are just so terrible. And I want to have an extended conversation about the cabin scene, but we can get to it. But it's I had fun watching it because Eric and I watched it together, and like I mentioned, I think maybe on the pre-show, like Eric and I watched the Phantasm movies together on VHS when we were kids, right? So like it has a very clear line to nostalgia for me. And if I wasn't watching it with Eric, I would probably want to jump in front of a train. But because I was watching it with Eric, I actually had a lot of fun watching
Yes, I mean, thank God you were here. I might have been angry at this movie when it was all said and done.
I mean, watching this would be a good like a convention crowd, because in a horror convention crowd, you get up probably a high concentration of people that are Phantasm fans. So it would probably be fun in that environment too. But it's very hard to just look at it as a standalone movie and be like anyone could make heads or tails of it.
Yeah, Casey.
Mark, I'm going to write a song for you for giving me a ride here to your cabin.
Oh, you're so sweet. Let's do it.
So, to start things off, I am a Phantasm fanboy. I love this movie series. It's not good, but I love the goofy shit that they've done over 4 movies with this. So, saying that, I love this movie. Phantasm Ravager, I really enjoyed it. But, and I got a really big but here. Everybody laughed. Cue. It's not a good movie. This movie is full of problems. It's rife with problems. Everything that everybody said so far, spot on. But for me, this really, the biggest thing here, even if I don't it's been so long since I watched the original movies that I can't even say that they stuck to where the whole yarn unraveled to get to an endpoint. But it really felt like, to me, it was in the same spirit as the older Phantasm movies from 79 and 80s and stuff like that. So seeing this made in 2016, and it feels like a Phantasm movie, you get to see all the old characters pop up. It's a really good nostalgia trip if you're into those movies. So Mark is exactly right. The average person that doesn't have any Phantasm connection, this is not going to go well.
I'm raising my hand.
If you have an intense love for the Phantasm movies, it's going to go better. Even though I know some of you out there from reading Twitter and things like that don't necessarily agree. Those that are diehards don't agree. But
don't agree. What? What do you say? What do you?
What's that?
What are you saying?
Like, are the fans liking this or not liking it?
It's a 50-50 from what I've seen. There's a lot of fans out there that thought this was just horrible and they shouldn't have bothered. And some of it just got really wrapped up in the nostalgia and enjoyed the camp of it.
If somebody
but you have to look at like what the Phantasm movies were to begin with. Like what kind of fucking brilliant opus are you expecting from a Phantasm?
Exactly.
Here's the problem. And like we'll lay it out. So like if let's think about that person who is a diehard fan, is way into all the bullshit and still hated it and here's why. It's cheap, and that sucks. Like, they've been trying to make this movie forever. He originally had a script. I was talking about this over email earlier, where the idea was Reggie Bannister would team up with Bruce Campbell, who was basically some kind of like commando dude, and I think it would be in this sort of apocalyptic-y future. They would go into the tall man's world, fight him off, whatever, big battle scenes. I don't think he ever got the money for that, but you can see the remnants of that storyline in this one, just kind of pared down a lot. I really, it's kind of cool that they made this movie, right? Like it's that he was able to make this movie in 2016, original cast, and just like full on fan service. That's really cool, and I think like something that I think I can appreciate as a horror fan. Where I get disappointed is like it's just cheap as shit. Like this is a broke ass movie, right? And there's just perfect.
You are not pulling punches right now.
There's this one scene. I'm just being honest.
He's keeping it 100.
I'm trying to be honest from the point of view of these people like Casey's talking about who watch it and were really upset, and because I understand why. Like there's just perfect microcosm of how cheap this movie is, and it's a silly little thing, but it's like the perfect thing. Mark and I were watching it. Fades up. First scene. Reggie Bannister has been, wandering the desert for who knows how long, like decades or whatever.
He tripped into some pudding.
He's got the original Ice Cream Man costume on, and it's supposed to look like he's been through hell, right? Like fights, and he's walking through the desert. It's crisp white. It's like perfectly clean, but you can tell that the costume department like took scissors, cut holes out, and then took a lighter and just made it kind of dark around the edges, and it looks so cheap. And it's like that's the level of attention to detail that this entire movie is given.
To be fair, it looked like he had a mild sweat going, so like
the CG is atrocious.
He was in the desert after all.
The CG is atrocious, the costuming is lazy, the practical effects are bad, the camera work is like out of a really cheap 90s direct-to-video movie, which, depending on your proclivities, I guess, might be your thing.
To add to Eric's point, I want to throw in there are parts in this movie where they do a lot of big time jumps between the past and the future and the current time and things like that, and it's all denoted by Reggie's hair color, and they screwed that up.
Well,
I honestly didn't even notice
another
that.
thing I didn't even think about until just now. There's like hardly any extras in the movie, and so it makes it feel really it makes it feel really small in a way that they could have really easily added a little more feeling of like there's no feeling of like depth to the world, so it doesn't feel real at all.
80% of this movie is Reggie Bannister.
And another thing Mark brought up in our email that is huge is those films, even the third and the fourth, were shot on. Well, I'm not positive about the fourth, but I'm pretty sure were shot on film. And like what shooting on film does is even if your production is really kind of ramshackle, it hides the kind of like rough around the edginess and gives it a little bit of a glow to it that just kind of like hides your mistakes or hides your shortcomings. And when you shoot
especially in editing,
when you shoot on when you shoot on video like this and just do all these digital effects on top of this video, it just looks and feels so cheap. And like that sucks. It sucks to see a series. So I'm a fan, but I wouldn't call myself a super fan, right? But those people definitely exist. They're definitely out there. And it sucks to be a super fan, be way into this, and like just have it feel like like it was made with tape by like a college student. You know what I
Well,
mean?
so
Yeah.
I will take the counterpoint
Totally.
here.
And I think like I can totally see both sides of it. I'm just kind of
Well,
being real
yeah,
about Schnars.
I was gonna defend. No, like I actually agree with everything you said. So just to play devil's advocate a little bit, the budget to me was super small. I mean, I was gonna see if it was listed. I'm sure it's not. I mean, this is the kind of thing they might have made this for like. If you told me $50,000, I would not be
Oh, I thought you were going to say
surprised.
$50.
No, but what is I think kind of what you're hitting on isn't even so much because like you can make a low budget film and make a lot of stuff work. To your point, like what maybe have been laziness or sort of like lack of attention to detail is also potentially just like they did actually like deploy a lot of budget on certain things, right? Like there were some effects, like there was like this is like super random, but there's the like 4-barrel shotgun. Like
Oh,
that
that's
actually is like a thing that like took some person like time to build, and maybe like they did it on the cheap
Well,
too.
it
But
could be.
they've had that around for 3
Yeah,
movies.
that's probably
just so you know.
that's probably the prop from the second film.
really, I mean, okay, so like
Well,
that's
But
like
to your point, here's the flip side though. Like here's the positive spin flip side of what I'm saying, because I don't want to be all negative at all. The positive spin flip side is like maybe you have a franchise where frankly like the market forces don't really dictate someone giving you money to make it, but Don Coscarelli said to himself, you know what, like I want to give this to fans. I want to give them the final movie with this cast while they're all still alive and like capable of doing it. And maybe he's only able to scrape up a tiny amount of money and like through sheer force of will made it happen. And that's also like a really positive story. But you just really have to know what you're getting into when you watch this movie.
yeah.
So the
I just,
go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was just gonna say I just looked up the director because I was very curious to see what else he's done.
It's all kid stuff.
It's all animated.
Animated,
Stuff. It's all
yeah.
kids, and his directing credits are all kids animated TV series.
I thought
which
it
is
was
like the weirdest.
I wish I knew the story, but I thought it was weird that Coscarelli didn't direct it himself.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you guys. Like I was just under the assumption because he's directed all the other ones and he's listed as a writer on this one. So like it is like sort of weird to me that they bring in this other guy, David Hartman, who's now listed as writer and director. So, and again, I just didn't have time to do a lot of research. So I was kind of curious if we heard anything about production that.
I honestly don't know, other than like Eric said, it took a long time to get this movie made. So
Yeah. Well,
I also just now remember that he directed John Dies at the End, which I like kind of want to watch again, but I also can't really bring myself to watch again.
I mean, I've been hearing about this movie for probably as long as the original Bloody Good Horror was around, and that was like 2001. So
yeah, but I want to throw out my counterpoint here to like Eric's points. And like Eric said, he's not just flat out hating on the movie. He can see both sides. But for me, the side that really made me love this is I've been forgiving for B movies and like direct-to-video stuff for a long time. Sometimes it's easy, for me anyways, and I know there's other viewers out there like me, it's easy to overlook the problems with the budget and the stuff that's happening on screen and get sucked into the story. And for this one, this is what I ended up loving about it because I fell in love with the franchise. I kind of loved Reggie, the character of Reggie. I love the characters and things like that. So as you watch them over 4 movies previous to this in the franchise, Coscarelli was doing some interesting stuff because he started getting into the post-apocalyptic thing, and it was just kind of going in a direction that you didn't expect. So when this one showed up, like Eric said, they've been talking about this movie forever, and I had no idea what I was going to be in store for. So when I sit down to watch a Phantasm movie, I'm excited to see Reggie Bannister, and I get presented with Reggie Bannister, and then you get to watch his story unfold with him, and they're doing some goofy ass shit with him, but like the fact that they played it into stuff like him being old, Alzheimer, dementia. They have Michael and Jody both show up in different time frames and stuff like that. It's like I said, technically, Eric's not wrong. The problems with the cheapness in this movie are exactly right. But as if you've watched all this series and get sucked into the story, that's where it kind of pulls you in on this one to see how they unfold.
ironically,
You still don't get a solid answer, but it's fun to see what direction they go.
Ironically, I think the Michael guy, like that actor, is maybe the best actor in this movie, and I think he's like the least amount of an actor of anybody as far as like what he's done.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
Yeah.
so like this movie is a very interesting case study in the cult of Reggie Bannister, such as it exists. Like, there's a scene, and this is what I want to talk about. So he ends up in one of these timelines. He ends up in this cabin, and he's shacking up with this woman, and by that I mean she's letting him sleep in his shack, and he's being creepy because like he's like his whole thing. He's like kind of a a womanizing balding ice cream man, which I thought was a very interesting character that they invented in the 70s because I'm pretty sure that doesn't exist. But so he's like staying with her and whatever, and then he's like basically like I feel like he's trying to hook up with her, and she's like, I'm just gonna go to bed, whatever. Never mind the fact that like he's clearly 50, 60, 70, however old he is, and she's probably 30 or something.
Yeah.
And is very nice to let this like creepy pudding covered stranger sleep in her house on her couch. So she goes upstairs and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna write you a song. And he proceeds to write the worst song that's ever been written about anyone.
Well, that's
And
what's
forgets
like,
her name.
And forgets her name, right? Which is like, haha, he's so funny. He's old and a womanizer, but he's, he forgets her name. And then it's like, okay, so it's like, that's great. Leave it at that.
That's great.
And then the scene continues, and she's upstairs and hears the song. And it's like, oh my God, he's so sweet. I'm now going to go downstairs and attempt to fuck Reggie Bannister. And then she comes down the stairs, and he's asleep on the couch. And like,
it's perfect.
I mean,
it's kind of it's
it's
perfect.
incredible. It's like,
And then
first
she
of all,
gets flying sphered to the face.
But what you're
premise-
touching on,
the premise is so incredibly problematic to start with, but in the context of this movie, it is so hilarious. It's like just so it's like plucked from another time,
like
removed from like all progress and just anything that's and in that way it's incredible, but it's also it's like the best and worst thing in the movie.
like what you're talking about though is kind of you're touching on though like the really endearing part of this film, which is that
Yes.
for better or worse, with no self-reflection whatsoever,
at all,
they just
not even nothing.
they put all the Phantasm things in here, right?
Yes, that
Reggie-
is exactly
Reggie's-
that is what you would expect from Reggie.
Reggie
in
is like this-
1979.
Reggie's this
World is
really
Reggie Bannister an alluring male presence.
he's like this really
Have you seen
boorish
his ponytail?
he's this really boorish ice cream man, right? Like he writes songs. He's written and sang a song in like every movie. In every movie, he runs into some like young lass on the road who's like completely smitten with him, who he then has sex with and refers to her as babe the whole movie.
I'm pretty sure he wants to sleep with Michael. Like it's
so
just,
the third
it's
film.
Okay, if
Okay,
that's what
so
he wants to do. But...
this actress, I wish I could remember her name.
But only now that Michael's older.
I'm going to describe her as the African American actress only because she's the only one that's like ever been in this series, so people know who I'm talking about. But she's in the third film. I'm trying to find her in here, and she shows up towards the end. And there's this scene where these other characters like grabbing her boob, and it's like it's kind of exactly what Mark is saying. It's like ridiculous and pretty weird in 2016 standards, but like sort of perfectly Phantasm. The entire third film is Reggie following her around, trying to have sex with her and making lewd comments, and her turning him down because I swear the story was that she was a lesbian or something. I can't remember.
But I want to follow John's thread that he's going with here, because one of the things Eric and I talked about while we were watching this, like, so part of Reggie Bannister's like never-ending quest through this universe is that he's trying to save his friends Jody and Michael, but kind of like very specifically Michael. And there's even a point where they point out that the tall man killed his wife and kids, and he's like, "Yeah, it's all about Michael." Like,
Yeah, as long as I get Michael and Jody
like,
back.
he has no emotional attachment to his wife and kids, but he's like, "I gotta find Michael, and I'm gonna chase him through eternity, no matter what it takes." Like, it's just like,
To be fair, I forgot he even had a wife and kids.
I did
They
too.
showed up at
and
one
they
point.
but they brought it up, right? Like I forgot that
know.
too, and they brought it up, and he's like, "Yeah, that doesn't fucking matter. Where's Michael?" Like, I
Okay,
need to figure
so-
out Michael.
So I got to bring this up. So just to circle back, so the actress I'm talking about, her name is Gloria Lynn Henry, and the character's name is Rocky. For anybody who's like seen these movies, so this woman has 5 acting credits since 1982. She was in a TV movie called Bare Essence. She was in
Nice.
Phantasm
Probably good.
in 1982. 1994, she's in Phantasm 3: Lord of the Dead. 1997, she's in The Devil's Advocate. 1998,
Great movie.
1998, she's
Yeah.
an uncredited role in The Horse Whisperer. and then her next movie is Phantasm Ravager in 2016. That is the most Phantasm like filmography you could possibly come up with.
You know what? I'm gonna be in a couple legit movies in the late '90s, and then.
But again,
an uncredited role. That's...
But Reggie's gonna draw me
But
back.
again, like the idea that they brought her back, awesomely Phantasm, right? Like that's it's an obscure character. You would have had to seen the sequels to even know who she was. Like, you know, if anything, it would have been awesome if they had brought her back as more. I have a feeling that in some version of this film, she was a bigger character, but like she shows up in some weird post-credit scene, and that's it.
Yeah, well, that's the great thing, though. Like you're saying, though, with how Phantasm this is, that scene that Mark's describing in the cabin, it is terrible. It's uncomfortable to watch.
Oh, it's so bad.
But it's also Reggie from the original Phantasm. You're watching that, and you're like, yeah, that's totally what Reggie would do.
I mean, I wonder how much of that comes from how long this script has been around, and then when they finally went to make it, they just kind of dusted it off and went, perfect.
Yes, totally.
Oh man! So there's
Eric, I know that we probably have to kind of wrap this up, but can you give me your best rundown of the horse scene, please?
Okay, so Reggie's at the farm. He wakes up in the morning. He goes upstairs and he finds his paramour, never to be, dead with like blood shooting, gushing out of her mouth or whatever.
Dawn.
He runs downstairs.
Whose name he couldn't remember.
He runs downstairs. He's screaming. He runs into, what is he? He's like the German stable boy or something.
Yeah, what's his name though?
Or was he Russian?
Oh, it's Daniel
Roebuck. Daniel Roebuck.
Yeah, Roebuck.
Was he Russian? He was foreign. And
he's like Gunther or something like that.
They're screaming at each other. He doesn't know what's going on. Reggie Bannister like pushes him and locks him into the barn. At which point the balls come outside looking for him, and instead hit a horse in what's easily the most hilariously bad effect of the whole movie. Murder the horse and start spewing horse blood everywhere. And they cut back to inside of the barn where Reggie's like looking out the peephole in between like two boards, and he just turns slowly to the guy and he's like, "I got some bad news about your horse, dude." And it's like that just kind of is the perfect. If that opening scene costume is the perfect explanation of how cheap it is, that line really just sums up the quality of writing in this movie. But it's kind of perfect. He also says, he has this line about, he says "far out, dude" a bunch of times, which is really weird. But it's you know it's Reggie.
I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be weird in 1979.
Well, and the whole thing in the original is he's like an ex-hippie.
That ponytail would always be weird.
Yeah, and by the way, he was that bald in 1979 too.
He was.
Yeah.
That was a total. That I think the proper name though is a skullet.
Yeah.
Man.
You know what I will say? A stroke of genius in the script. The idea that, because the second and third, fourth films are all about the tall man sort of slowly sweeping small town America and like turning everyone into slaves. So the idea that we would jump ahead into like the post-apocalyptic future is awesome. And then further, the idea that giant spaceship-sized balls are floating over cities and destroying buildings, like that's kind of a stroke of genius in the script. It sucks that they couldn't really pull it off because of the budget, but I got to give them credit for the idea because it's like kind of the best place to take this whole thing.
Yeah, and to be fair, like we got to see, from what I remember, we got to see more of the tall man's dimension in this movie than we typically get to see. So as a longtime fan that always wanted to see that was kind of cool to see too.
It's still red.
A little
still
bit.
Very red.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's still kind of just like this one cliffside that he's standing next to.
So I just did a little split-second podcast researching. One of the things that I thought was kind of disappointing about this was the lack of Angus Scrimm, and obviously we know he passed away earlier this year, but this movie completed production in 2014. So like,
no, it did. I was reading that too. I was reading on Wikipedia. They ended up having to like shoot a bunch still. Like that. It was not
completed production in quotes.
Yeah.
Well, and they did this very interesting thing where they were putting like a smoothing filter on his face. You could tell like there was some
weird
weird
him look
dreamy
younger or something.
Well, they did some like weird After Effects tricks to kind of like make people appear younger than they were in certain scenes.
Wasn't there a scene where he legit wasn't speaking, but or he was speaking, but his mouth wasn't
speaking? Yeah,
there was a scene where I didn't notice that. Maybe they just had to like dub him.
You were like having a blackout moment.
Right, I was gonna say this movie's so fucking insane that something as crazy as them just showing his still face with words coming out didn't seem like something that was out of place.
Yeah.
Oh my god, So special. Very special.
So yeah, whatever. I think like endearing is kind of a good word that we kind of landed on over email to describe this. Like I said, I just think if you're a fan, if you're not a fan, stay away. If you are a fan, you still have to kind of come in with the right mindset of just like this is a fun, low budget kind of fan servicey thing.
Yeah, I think I want to add an amendment to my previous statement. If you are a super fan that is like so excited about this because you think it's going to be great,
just like
this is not for you.
Tamp down. Just tamp down your expectations a little bit.
Right, just don't. Right,
just tamp them down. Tamp them down.
It will not. Just imagine every loose thread in every Phantasm movie just continued to go off into eternity, and
never
that's basically
back.
what this movie is.
Yeah,
and it never comes back together. We can't even really talk about the ending because the ending is not really an ending. So it's like,
yeah, we should say too that they bring back the Lady in Lavender from the original film, from the graveyard
do.
scene.
Oh yeah, she's back.
Yeah. So just
again,
fun,
a throwback. If you've seen the original, you're like, all right. But if you haven't, you're like, what is happening?
So
if I'm hanging out at night and I'm gonna watch a Phantasm, I'm still going for the second one. Let's just say that.
If her only credits are Phantasm movies, by the way, that woman.
Nice.
So
even as much as I love this movie, when you get towards the end and you start to see different timelines start to blend and merge and weird shit's happening, even I can't say I know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
Also, I will tell any of our fans that are very interested, if you don't feel like watching the movie but you want to know what happens, the plot synopsis on Wikipedia is an exhaustive description of literally everything that happens in the movie. So
it's like a novelization that they didn't pay for.
It seriously is, and you should try reading it because I don't think it would help you make sense of what's happening.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, guys. That's going to do it. Would you recommend this movie, Mark?
Very conditionally.
Casey?
Extremely conditionally.
Schnars?
I'm just going to say no.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm gonna agree with Mark and Casey, conditionally. All right, guys. That's going to do it for Phantasm Ravager. Let's take a quick break so that we can do some fan mail.
From the creator of Halloween and the star of The Exorcist, Linda Blair in Hell Night. Garth Manor, where the unseen, the unspeakable, hides its terror in cobwebbed corridors. Linda Blair, Vincent Van Patten, and Peter Barton in Hell Night. From Compass International, rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
Hi, my name is Quinn Lord, and I am from Trick or Treat. You are listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. Back in the house.
Back.
Info at bloodygoodhorror.com is email address. John, really quick, we've had a couple of people, new patrons, email in recently with questions about accessing old episodes. You want to just kind of clarify that process for people in case they were
Yeah, and this is on Patreon somewhere. But first of all, thank you for being a patron.
Yes.
Second of all, the back catalog is all in a Google Drive folder that everyone must be manually added to. And the person who does that manual adding is yours truly. And sometimes yours truly is very busy at the office and is unable to give that access very quickly. So yeah, I do swear that everyone will get added as soon as I can.
Sometimes he takes long naps.
No, but anyway, that's just like
Dear God, I wish. No, yeah, I mean that's all to say. Everybody is exceedingly patient, and again, we thank you. And it is a manual process. That's why, if anyone's wondering what the F's going on, you can hold me personally responsible.
Will do.
Yeah.
No,
So it happens anyway around here.
Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror if you would like access to old episodes. First up, info@bloodygoodhorror. This is from Dustin. This is actually the first and last email tonight. Eric mentioned the Garfield Halloween episode in 391, and it prompted me to share an amusing observation I had as a child. The basic story is that Garfield and Odie end up on an island after a night of trick-or-treating and find an old house. The old man in a creepy house on the island tells them that a bunch of pirate ghosts are coming to get treasure they buried on the island. Garfield and Odie escape, but in a scene exclusive to the comic adaptation, Garfield stole a ring from the treasure and the pirate ghosts were waiting at his house for him, only leaving when the fat orange cat gave him the ring back. And we don't see John for the rest of the episode. I always thought it would have been funny if the pirate ghost had murdered John in his sleep and Garfield didn't even discover it until the next day. Sure.
Hilarious.
High
comedy.
As a longtime listener, would it be too much trouble to ask for a plug for my first Kindle book? It is titled Our Friend of the Night and is available on the Kindle store. It contains 3 stories that have been or will soon be produced by the No Sleep podcast. Thanks, guys. Coming up on the 7-year anniversary of discovering the show, and you haven't lost a step. The book is called Our Friend of the Night. No Sleep podcast is really cool, so congratulations on that. That's pretty neat.
That's awesome.
I was hoping the book would be an extension of the pirate ghost storyline.
I know.
Pirate ghost.
What happened if John did die?
Yeah.
It's a bone.
I mean, you would get Garfield minus Garfield if you guys have ever seen that.
I'm sure I've seen this Halloween special. I cannot put my finger on it.
It's on YouTube. I used to watch it every year, like it was a big thing. So I'm gonna watch it again this year. We're also on Twitter at BG Horror with the hashtag AskBGH and BGH Classics.
Yeah. So because I was only on the last episode for about 15 minutes via a rental car, I'm just going to go ahead and guess where we left off last week, ? This first one is from, so I'm going to do BGH Classics first. For those of you who are not familiar, we are encouraging people who have access to the back episodes through Patreon to tweet us with some of the more ridiculous things that they hear in back episodes with the hashtag BGH Classics. And if you have room for it, please include the episode number so that other people may track it down. This one is from The Lausch. Whether Freddy is or isn't one isn't as important as how much fun it is to say. Pederast as the word of the day, episode 71.
Never gets old.
Wow, John, that's like a callback tie-in. We've got Reggie Bannister.
I believe the question was like they oddly danced around it in the remake. Like it seemed pretty obvious, but it was never said. Right. Weird. Oh. And then we were like debating, do they even ever say it in the first movie, which they kind of don't.
No, not explicitly.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. Weird.
Son of 100 maniacs.
My sister did text me that she's going to a screening of the original Nightmare for Halloween.
Nice.
That's cool. Sweet. Oh, my wife and I are going to see Halloween at a drive-in this weekend.
Oh, wow.
And it's followed by Friday the 13th, but as I was saying earlier today, there's no way I'll be awake for a second feature, so.
I'm going to watch Halloween in my garage.
What better place?
I'm trying to find somewhere where I can watch Creepshow, and I couldn't find it on Netflix or Shudder. So maybe I'll go Amazon. So sad. Too bad, so sad. Next one is from Burninator Ben, episode 179, Red State. Eric, Kevin Smith is basically now going to take his ball and go home. Joe, and eat it.
Yep. It's pretty good.
Oh, man. It's nothing like a good Joe hating Kevin Smith joke.
Pretty good.
Ah, boy.
I'm into it.
Yeah. Next one is from the Teffest Pontypool, in which the rest of the BG Horror crew sells out Joe for providing movies from unknown sources. I don't think that's Joe.
Yeah. It's not Joe.
Oh, boy.
Joe does not know how to get movies from untoward sources.
Oh, Joe consumes them. That's what we all do. Next one is from That Baseball Joe. Let's be real here. This movie was fucking awful. That was me doing his best Schnars review for Survival of the Dead.
Yeah, never saw that one. Thank God. Dodged that bullet.
All right, last one is from Anton Reemkob. Okay. Episode 144, where Eric informs the listeners of Mark's audible fart at the very end of episode 143.
That's pretty good.
Those were the Wild West days. We were
Classy.
just tooting all over the place. I seem to remember too, like a very early iTunes review saying that like we were one of the rare podcasts where people weren't like burping and farting.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out like what fucking podcast they were listening to.
No, I mean we didn't do it intentionally, you know.
You know, they don't really put the farts in Radio Lab, so I guess I just
Jed works.
It's
those out.
American life.
I bet actually now that I say it, there is probably a Radio Lab episode where they pipe in fart noises, but
Oh, there's definitely one about farts. So.
how farts are made in the butt. All right. So that was BGH Classic. And I am going to run us through. So did you guys answer the question about Corey Feldman's double album last week?
No.
Okay, well, it's for Joe, but I'm going to read it. It's from That Baseball Joe. How excited is Joe about Corey Feldman's double album?
I don't know, but suddenly I found myself wondering, like, what are Joe's thoughts on Corey Feldman's music?
Yeah.
It seems like one of those.
Didn't he do another appearance on the Today Show?
It seems like one of those random people he might find a national treasure for no particular reason.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Now
We'll have to save that for him.
The performances are like, I don't know, like pieces of performance art. They're pretty amazing.
All right, here's a good head scratcher for you guys, and you are not prepared to answer, but I'd be interested to see what you have to say. This is from Alan Murch. Which one movie would you most like to watch again for the very first time? The Sixth Sense isn't a valid answer.
Ooh.
Man.
So I've been thinking about this because I read this tweet like 10 minutes ago. I want to say The Exorcist, if only because we've gone through, and we were actually having an interesting discussion about kind of supernatural horror movies among the BGH writers today. I'd just be very interested to see, because it's still to me is like the standard of how far you can push those movies. So I'd just be interested to see it relative to all these other supernatural movies.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely ones from my childhood, like The Shining or something, but I kind of keep thinking about what are my top 10 all-time reviewed on the show movies that like really spooked me, and I would say like, then I think of stuff like The Strangers or like Insidious, you know? I don't know.
I'm going to go with Alien.
Yeah.
That'd be good. I'd go with The Changeling with George C. Scott because I didn't watch that till I'm an adult, and it still scared the poop out of me.
Another modern one I like to shout out is The Descent. That movie really scared the shit
Oh,
out of me.
that's a can't miss.
I had to watch that movie standing up.
It's freaky, man. Freaky deaky.
I saw it in the theater. It was great. That's like one of those where I kind of like didn't know much going in because I think it was like what, 2001 or 2 or something.
I mean,
all
all female cast too. Like, you know, that was Neil Marshall, right?
Yeah. But it was like sort of like pre-internet. Like you didn't go in knowing. It was back when like you might have seen like a couple trailers.
Right. It was
so,
before Twitter just fucking ruined everything, basically.
Yeah.
So, good times.
All right. Next one is from Maniac Cop 3. Do you need to have seen the previous Phantasm movies before you see this?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then.
It's still not going to make sense.
I mean, definitely the first
Please
one, right?
see our previous review.
I'm not even kidding. It's not even like a you won't like it.
It's a you
If
won't.
you haven't seen the first one, you
You'd be
like
like,
literally have
what?
no idea who anyone is, why anyone cast them in a movie. What you have to watch the first one.
Yeah.
No, it like
No, you
as
have
someone
to
who's only seen
specifically.
the first one.
You have to specifically have seen all the sequels too.
Well, yeah, like I had no idea what was going on. I was able to like quote unquote enjoy some
Because
of it.
Oh,
But, like,
it's not.
is tall.
It's not that the sequels would give you more context as to what's happening, but the sequels give you more context as to the nonsensicalness. Like they slowly ramp up in insanity so that by the time you get to 5, it makes total sense. But if you go from 1 to 5, it's like, what the hell's happening?
I don't know. Anger Scrim was great in the first one. He's like, I'm curious. Like, is he good in the other? Because like here, he's like, it's like he's not a person.
Did you just call him Anger Scrim?
I think he did.
I think that's a Metallica album.
Anger Scrim.
I don't know. In any event, he's like not even a character. Like that's the problem for me with this is like he's such a big part of what makes at least the first film, and then he's like there could have been a cutout of him that they were just like
he's
wheeling around.
old as fuck, John. What do you want?
Well,
I mean, he
know.
shot this just
I'm saying
before
it's
he
his
died.
fault. It's not his fault. He didn't make the movie. He just
That's my
was
favorite.
a super old man.
That's my favorite Metallica album, Saint Anger Scream.
All right, next
Now
one.
you die. All right. Okay, cool. Next one from Danny JPEG. What movie has a message, a deeper level that you understand yet don't care for? For me, it's Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Ooh, I haven't seen that, but I've wanted to. I mean, this like gets to the Mark just referenced the conversation we were having on Slack. It like there's a lot of these possession movies. There's been a lot of them. Some of them have more overt sort of like Christian messages to them that I definitely don't care for.
Yeah.
When when the upshot is sort of like, you have to believe in Jesus to be okay. Like that's not like the movie can still be enjoyable, but that makes me not like the underlying message.
It didn't really start bothering me until that was every movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Well,
one off every once in a while was fine, but when every single mainstream horror movie does that same thing, it's like, what is happening?
But I do think it's like it's a subset. I mean, we talked about this on Slack, but like, and we've talked about it in previous episodes, right? Where like the other side of the door, like the darkness, like they're trying to do different stuff now, and that like doesn't hit at that exact message. Some of them still go back to that well, though.
Yeah. I would go. I don't have like John. I don't have a specific movie to name, but I'm getting pretty tired of the whole message of the humans are the real monsters in zombie movies too.
Oh yeah,
Well,
that's pretty played to death.
Wouldn't it be amazing if Sony made a zombie movie where humans were like perfect now and had reached utopia and nothing was wrong with them, but the zombies were really the monsters?
Yeah.
I just made somebody's like first movie insane. That's
Wasn't
Starring
that
Reggie Bannister?
Land of the Dead?
Now there's bad people in Land of the Dead.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
What about Warm Bodies?
John, they literally live in an ivory tower.
There you go.
Warm Bodies was a sweet movie. I liked that movie.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I love one.
I wasn't knocking it.
Cool. Okay. Next one. I like this question. You're also unprepared for it, but I like it. This is from Nick Allman Scott. What is the best fifth movie in a horror franchise? It's got to be Halloween.
Friday the 13th, Part 5. I don't know.
Oh.
People hate that one, but I like it.
Is that the new beginning? What's it called?
Yeah, that's the one where it's not Jason. But we were literally, I was just defending it on the show a couple weeks ago when somebody asked
There's a
about
great heart-eating scene in that movie.
What?
Yeah, isn't like one of the dudes that becomes possessed like chomping down on a heart at some point? You don't remember that?
No, you're talking about Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah, that's I was gonna say.
Oh, you're right.
That's
you're right.
part 9.
Jesus Christ, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
that's
Part
out of
5
control.
was great, right?
It is. It's a new beginning. Yeah, that one's not bad. I kind of like that one.
I was gonna say Bride of Chucky, but that was part 4, I think.
Seed of Chucky, then?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I haven't heard great things.
I actually have not. I also have not seen Seed of Chucky.
Yeah, Bride of Chucky is
How
amazing though.
Did Seed of Chucky predate the show, or did we just not watch it?
No, predated the show. It was like 2005.
Oh, really?
Pretty positive.
Fascinating. Well, again,
Yeah.
just to call back to the BGH watch list, I included Bride of Chucky and my must-watch Halloween
Dude,
movies.
I know. Another one of my favorites that everybody hates, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5.
No,
The Dream
no,
Child.
thank you.
Wait, which one is it?
The Dream Child.
Oh, yeah, no.
I think it's.
I just like the title because it's one of those things you say in a weird voice, like, "Oh, it's the Dream Child."
The Dream Child. It has an amazing poster. It's really good, atmospheric. It's awesome. Super Freddy.
I still stand by Halloween 5.
I like Halloween 5 too, actually.
It's like a worse version of Halloween 4, but I love Halloween 4. So
yeah,
just kind of a Halloween guy through and through, you know.
Yeah, man, I get it.
That's cool.
It does have that amazing scene where, actually, there's a lot of creepy scenes in that movie, but the one that always sticks out to me is when Michael Myers is driving the car and he's chasing the kids through the cornfield. Like that's real creepy.
Tina. Also notable for the wacky cop music that happens whenever the cops are on screen with like weird like slide whistles and shit. It's a masterpiece. All right, next one. A Howard 0614. Have y'all seen the trailer for A Cure for Wellness? It looks amazeballs. Something to look forward to in February.
No.
No.
I have not watched it. I just saw it posted on Facebook earlier tonight. I didn't know if it was a horror or not, though.
Oh, Gore
I'll tell you.
Verbinski.
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna favorite this tweet, and then maybe we'll try to watch it for next week.
Yeah, let's definitely. Gore Verbinski, that's pretty interesting. I mean, he's done he did The Ring, but
What has he
he's done a
done-
bunch of.
What has he done that would be considered good since The Ring? Just a
I mean,
serious question.
if you like any of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, which
I have not seen one.
I
Wouldn't
like
see
the
any
one
of
where
them.
the
Wow.
pirate ship was in sand, and it was like a dream.
It kind of
He
just
also-
never
he
did
did this.
anything.
Did you ever
for
see
me.
Rango? The movie
Yeah.
Rango?
No.
That's a pretty sweet movie. I would give that a pretty strong recommend.
The Weatherman wasn't terrible either for a Nick Cage movie.
I like that movie.
don't know that that's possible, but okay.
So he's kind of had an interesting
You
career.
take that back.
No, yeah. I mean, I know nothing about this movie other than he directed it, and it has a somewhat interesting poster, and I'm ready to watch it.
Cool.
It was free fucking pizza. I know that doesn't have anything to do with anything. I was just thinking about how funny that line was. Next
Free
one.
fucking pizza.
Stout 2 114 are the further and the show hole one and the same.
Show hole.
What?
What's the show hole?
I think did we
Have you
refer
s-
to the area where the shows that we didn't end up recording as the show hole? Was that
Oh,
what we did?
maybe.
That's like a Netflix thing.
The show hole?
Yeah, when you get done binging one series and you don't have another series to binge.
Oh, sure. That actually sounds way better than
Yeah.
what I just made up on the spot.
But to answer the question, it depends on if Lin Shay shows up in your show hole or not.
There you go.
If you find Lin Shay in your show hole, call a doctor. Great. All right. Last one. This is from Franchise MPLS. How did the brothers Newell meet Schnars and Casey?
When Mark and I brought this site back in
Craigslist misconnections.
2007, 2006, 2007, and then I was listening to a lot of Night of the Living podcasts, which was fairly new around that time. And I basically asked them if they would put out a note just saying like, hey, I'm looking for writers. If anybody's interested, hit me up. And I believe both of them heard about us through them, which is why I always credit them with like helping us get our start.
Yep, it's Night of the Living podcast fault.
And then,
Correct.
I brought them on pretty early on. I brought Shelton on. Andy was like probably the first person outside of that initial group. And then like we really kind of became friends just through doing the show.
Did
Yeah.
Andy predate Joe?
Oh yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Andy was writing for us since like almost the beginning.
Hmm.
He
Interesting.
wasn't he had I don't know when his first time on the podcast was. I'm not sure.
I can still remember when I first emailed Eric about the ad that was on the Night of Living podcast show, and then he set up a time to call me. And I sat out in the garage of my house here, and we talked about horror movies and what we were into and stuff for like an hour and a half. It was cool.
Huh, I don't remember that, but that sounds
That's
about right.
heartwarming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was definitely first 20 episodes of NOTLP, because I think for some reason the number 19 sticks out to me as like the episode where I heard that
Yeah, I don't
promo.
remember. But yeah. So it was just kind of like a dumb luck thing.
Yep.
God, and fucking 10 years later, man.
I
Holy
know.
shit. Holy shit.
We're old.
See, sometimes online dating does work.
So long
Yeah.
so long ago we had a MySpace.
There you
Yeah,
go.
for real. We totally did.
Join the MySpace revolution, Mark.
Joined it. I just love that the pictures are still there.
Join the conversation on MySpace.
You know what must be depressing? Working for MySpace
Yeah. I'm
in
sure that
2016.
I'm sure if you
Is it-
do, you're drinking the Kool-Aid of like, nah, man, it's like for sharing music and
Well,
stuff.
I mean, they probably it's probably on autopilot now. I'm sure
I was
there
gonna
are very
say-
few people actually working for it, but
It's
Maybe.
it's owned by
Somebody bought
Fox, isn't it?
Yeah, somebody bought it.
Oh no, now it says it's owned by Time Inc. Huh? I think that's
Time
not
Warner
the
really
original.
between that and AOL really buying up all the hot internet properties.
Well, the AOL and Time Warner have been separated for
Have they
many,
really?
many moons. Yeah.
Whatever. It stains them still.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's widely regarded one of the worst.
Well, when they
mergers
bought
ever.
AOL, it
Also-
was like anybody who had actually ever used the internet was like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
So terrible transition. You mentioned one John Shelton, who has sort of been missing. Well, not on in Sophistical World, but on BGH, he'll be making his return to the website in the form of a watch list because he did actually give me a list to
Cool.
put up on the site. So.
And yeah, he
Boom.
does.
Nice.
He lives on in the Valley of Sophistical.
Yeah,
Well,
his list, I guarantee his list will be the weirdest of all of them. So that is going to be a must-see list on Bloody Good Horror.
Dude, Andy probably takes a little,
Oh yeah, Andy,
I don't know,
sure.
man.
That's
I've seen the lists.
Okay.
I've seen the list.
I guarantee you, one of them has a French cartoon on their list. I don't know what it is. I'm just saying. I bet you one of them does.
Just some French cartoon.
Yeah,
It
just
doesn't
some
even
weird
matter.
ass French cartoon. What's that one with the aliens who like eat people?
Zooby Zooby Zoo.
Sure.
Mm.
Zoobly Zoo. Is that it,
Oh,
Mark?
Lord.
Fromage.
Is that it on Twitter, Mark?
Yeah, it's it. Watch list. BloodyGoodHorror.com.
Yep.
Yeah.
John, what's our schedule coming up?
We've got Ouija 2.
Ouija.
An origin of Ouija or something like that. And then Boo, a Medea Halloween.
Hey.
The origin of Medea.
Yeah.
So we're doing that for Halloween, basically,
No, well, yes.
or
yes.
week before. So
For
no,
the
that's
week,
Halloween.
the week of Halloween, yes.
Perfect.
Awesome. Love it.
We will then have our 400th episode spectacular, which you should vote on as a patron.
Yeah. So if you want to vote on that and get access to all our back shows, check out patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. It's gonna do it.
We
How long
encourage
did they-
you to vote your conscience.
How long can they vote, John?
I don't know. I'll post it on Friday. We'll keep it open for like a week. I don't know.
There you
How
go.
long you want?
If you are
Sure,
a patron,
week.
you get messages in your email, so just keep an eye out. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Hope you enjoyed our review of Phantasm Ravager. We'll talk to you soon.
Adios.
See you.
Bye-bye.